As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
NIL Now with Lauren Sisler and Kevin Jones.
If you want to learn more about name, image, and likeness, you need to go to The Source. The NIL Now podcast from Headline Studio and Reddit highlights the biggest storylines with comments from key guests in the college and high school NIL space.
NIL is not a cherry on top. It needs to be thought about as a part of these young men and women's future to, further their careers. You should be able to leave college with something.
Subscribe to NIL Now on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Happy Free Agency Week to those who celebrate. If not, I feel for you. But what a Monday, what a day to open up legal tampering in the NFL. A big day for a lot of teams. For the Bengals, it was an interesting one as they re-signed a name that I think we can argue was a shocker while losing two big names, one of which I think was somewhat of a shocker. Welcome into another edition of the Strictly Stripes podcast, free agent edition. Muhammad Ahmad back from my little vacay with Mike Nizick and Andrew Gillis, who, in Mike's words, were the inmates running the asylum. That's a good one. I guess that technically makes me the warden, so I'm back in charge. No playing around, guys. Just kidding. But to just jump right into it, if you go back to the Combine, Lou Anarumo said that he didn't want to think about that quote-unquote dark day when Jesse Bates and Von Bell would both theoretically leave the Bengals. Well, that dark day came as Bates and Bell left an hour apart. Bates went to the Falcons. Bell went to the Panthers. And Jesse Bates got paid $64 million, fourth highest paid safety in league history. We weren't shocked by that. I was going to say I was a little bit surprised to see Von Bell go. How shocked were you guys when you saw him take the deal he took with the Panthers, which granted was for, I believe, $22.5 million as just reported by several sources and reports.
Yeah, I mean, you figured 22.5 would kind of be would kind of be enough to keep Bell. You figured that's kind of where his contract would come if it was with the Bengals. I figured if it went over, then you would have been talking about a different situation. But I don't know. I think the Pratt signing kind of was, I guess, forewarning of what was coming today for the Bengals. I think once they kind of looked around and said, okay, we're probably not going to be able to keep Von Bell. I think that might have opened up a door for a return for Jermaine Pratt because, you can kind of allocate some cash that you maybe didn't think you were going to have free. So I've been kind of struggling with it all day. I don't know what you guys think, but about which one is kind of the more surprising move. Whether assuming that neither of those moves are correlated, which I think they are, but I don't know. It was a unique day, and the Bell thing was certainly a surprise to me. I had kind of talked about it and kind of assumed, going off the assumption that throughout the offseason he was going to be here and it was going to be him and Dax Hill as your starting safeties week one.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the numbers for Bell's deal, which just got, like Mohammed said, announced about an hour ago, it didn't seem like an exorbitant deal. Just for comparison, if you average it out, I mean, it might be different, but it's about $7.5 million per year. He was making $6 million per year for the Bengals over the last 3 years. So it's not like it was a huge upcharge, to re-sign him. I mean, I guess we kind of have to wait and see what they have planned. I mean, obviously, there's got to be another move. Like, I don't think that they'll go into next season with another rookie safety. Dax Hill and Michael Thomas as their options. I mean, that wouldn't be smart.
Tyson Anderson. Don't forget.
Tyson Anderson.
Yeah, don't forget about Tyson.
Who hasn't played.
Who basically redshirted.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that's not I mean, it just adds to the point, right? They're not going to go in with no experience and a veteran who hasn't played, at the position in 2 years. So we'll wait to see what the next move is. I just think it's surprising considering it wasn't all that much money, over what they were paying him now. So, I mean, like, I'm curious what the gap was, if they just said we just are going to move on, or there was a gap, like, and they just wanted to pay him less. I think that'd be interesting to hear, just because, like I said, on its face, the money makes it, I think, surprising. That he left, I'm not, just because, they'd be paying him into his 30s. They usually don't like doing that, the Bengals I'm talking about. So, yeah, but I just think in terms of, you thought if they were going to, Duke Tobin said about the market dictating the price, and it seemed like this was a pretty fair deal. If the Bengals wanted him, they could have probably gotten him.
Yeah, I'm curious when and if the Bengals sign somebody in free agency, kind of what that deal looks like. I mean, I think you're right. I don't think you can draft somebody or go into the draft saying, all right, if we draft a guy in the first round or two, we're going to be comfortable with that going into next year. Because if you do that, I mean, it's more than just the safety position. You're talking about a second-year corner in Cam Taylor-Britt, who's going to start. You have some veteran leadership with Mike Hilton there. Assuming Chidobe Awuzie is healthy, you're going to have him. Those are your three corners. But then you got Dax Hill, who has played one NFL season, and he wasn't really used at safety a whole heck of a lot. They kind of used him all over the field. They used him a lot at corner when they needed him. Now you're going to, now it's just, I don't think you can be staring down the barrel of adding another safety who is that young into the mix. I think you need some kind of veteran leadership there. Especially if you're going to lose Bates and if you're going to lose Bell in terms of what you can, what you're talking about off the field stuff too. So it's an interesting conversation, and I'm curious, assuming they do go to the veteran route, what that contract looks like for that guy, because I think that there's a pretty easy comparison of, okay, well, you could have had Von Bell for this, but you could have had, you signed this guy for this.
Yeah, Andrew, all that is really interesting. To kind of answer your question about, what was I more shocked by, Jermaine Pratt or Von Bell? I think, kind of agreeing with Michael, I think I was more shocked by Jermaine Pratt. I mean, we talked about it so much on this podcast. I think we established, right after the season was over, that he was pretty much gone like Jesse Bates, which is why his name never really came up on this pod really after that, because I think we all thought, yeah, he's out, he's done. We talked about the tweets. We talked about, when he was raging after the Chiefs game saying, it was my last bleeping year. Although I will say he did apologize for that. And, Lou Anarumo acknowledged that Jermaine showed a lot of leadership for that. So I wonder if, with Jermaine, if they saw that he obviously made a mistake, he owned up to it. But more so, I wonder, he saw maybe TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds getting paid big time, by the Chicago Bears and other linebackers getting paid. Did he realize maybe okay, I'm not worth that much money? Did he maybe realize that he's not going to get the kind of dollars he was looking for? Because, I mean, I think it was a $21 million deal where the first year is $15.5 million. Then it's a combined, I guess, however much for the next 2 years, which I think maybe could be because they want to make it cap friendly for AKA Joe Burrow's contract extension. But I was more surprised by that. I wasn't too shocked with Von Bell. I think the Panthers kind of make sense in a way because for those who don't know, he's actually from Georgia. So maybe he wants to be closer to family. Maybe he thought, okay, I can make the same money being closer to home. I don't know how much that factored into his decision. But, I mean, if it didn't, I wouldn't be shocked. But like Mike said, I mean, the money wasn't really all that different. So that kind of brings the question of, what kind of happened and what was he looking for. But, to go back to where you were talking about, Andrew, with Dax Hill and, of course, honorable mention Tyson Anderson. And by the way, should mention that Michael Thomas was re-signed today to a one-year deal. Didn't play much last year other than special teams, but a valuable leadership voice in the locker room. I mean, at this point, regardless of what happens with free agency, and I want to get to that in a second, I mean, how much faith do you have in Dax Hill? No matter what the Bengals do from here, they draft a safety, sign a veteran. How confident are you that they're going to do what's asked of him? And I guess better yet, how tough is it going to be for Lou Anarumo, because it is going to be, I think, one of the biggest challenges he'll deal with next year.
I mean, I don't know how you have faith in Dax Hill when you don't know what position he's going to play, and the team doesn't know, and B, he didn't play that position last year, so probably not a lot. I mean, you hope he's the first round pick. The expectations are going to be there. That'll be fine, but you need a veteran in the secondary there. You can't just reboot with two, essentially rookies. I mean, it's going to be a difficult job for him. And I think that's part of the reason why you resigned the linebackers. I mean, they got a good, I think one of the better coverage, tandems at linebacker in the league. You do have 5 in the secondary, so the nickel can help. But, still, and you do have leadership in that room. And it won't be easy. And I can't imagine them saying, yeah, we'll just draft somebody and we'll roll with that. I mean, it just seems inconceivable.
Yeah. With Dax Hill, I think you almost kind of have to look at him like he's a rookie, because you got a little bit of a glimpse of kind of what he can give you, but he's athletic. That, he can move pretty well and he can kind of do a bunch of different things in a pinch, but you haven't seen him play safety a whole heck of a lot. So it's kind of hard to say. And I think that kind of, like Mike said, I think that kind of blends into what you have to do now and moving forward, which is you have to get somebody who maybe, I mean, it's obviously the veteran, but you kind of have to get somebody who what you're going to get. Because let's just call it what it is. What if what if Dax Hill is a bust, right? And it's hard to say bust for like 31st overall pick.
Ooh.
But like, I don't know. I'm just, you
But your point is, like, if he's bad next year and you have no depth to begin with,
right? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like
somebody midstream, like you'd probably want them, some guys to go through camp to have some experience to be with the team,
right.
Like. You'd be stuck at that point if, like you're saying, that might not mean he's a bust overall, but if he's bad, you want to replace him.
Right. I know. Yeah.
What if he needs another year? Like, what if he's just a late bloomer? Like, he's a younger guy still. Like when he got drafted, he was a younger rookie. But like, what if he's not going to cut it? What if he needs another year? What if this? What if that? Like, you can't. To me, if this was a team, if we're talking about the Bengals and the Bengals were. They were talking about him coming out of the 2020 season, the year where you were picking 5th and you're like, all right, well, we're going to kind of push the young kids out of the nest and be like, all right, show us what you got. Then I think Dax Hill, and if you want to add somebody, then that's fine because you're not really anticipating contending. This team wants to win a Super Bowl. And like, depending on your point of view, is running out of time for, and I think it's pretty fair to say, their best chance to win a Super Bowl during the Burrow era, because this is the cheapest he's ever going to be. So, like, you don't want to go into a season with any, like, I mean, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you don't want to go into a season with any question marks about kind of what you're going to get from your starters. So, whether that's you bring in 2 or 3 guys who are, quality depth, and you bring in a rookie and you just say, all right, guys, best man gets the job, like or you want to bring in a defined starter, you've got to bring in bodies, like depth and talent level players, because this is a position where I think you can do that. It's not, a position like quarterback or defensive end or something like that where you really, you might be cash strapped. You can do this affordably, and I think they have to if you don't want to go into a year without kind of holding your breath.
So who do you bring in? That's my next question is, you look at some of the options on the free agent market. Who do you think the Bengals should pursue, and what options do you think fit for them?
Well, so it was funny that you said that because, like, while we were talking, I was, like, frantically pulling up safeties because it's hard during the day to try and think, like, who the hell signed? Where did he sign? And where did he go?
Marcus Epps, I know, is unavailable.
So Epps is unavailable.
He signed with the Raiders.
And I don't know. I think, one of the things that I think people shouldn't get caught up into is that Lou Anarumo talked about this, and he's like, yeah, well, both of our safeties are kind of interchangeable. They can do kind of – I forget if the question was something like, we need – do you need a specific type, or what's it like losing a free safety? Like, he was like, we can kind of use our safeties interchangeably. So I'm not sure you definitely need like a strong safety body or like a free safety, somebody who's more athletic, more physical. I don't really know if that's going to matter. But like, it's interesting because like Jordan Poyer's a free agent, but it's like if you're not going to pay Von Bell, you're going to pay Jordan Poyer. Like there's guys that
who's also just as old.
Yeah, he's older. He's 31. So there's guys that you look into this and you're like I don't know, Jimmy Ward. What is that? Like, I don't know. So I don't know if I should give you a name. I don't think I can give you a name. Just because I don't. you look at the free agents, and one, we don't know what kind of conversations they had with Von Bell yet. But if you're not going to pay Von Bell that contract, then who's kind of on the table for you? I think that's the next question.
Yeah, I think those are all fair points. This probably, behind the scenes, they're probably going to make a decision now where they want Dax Hill. Like, they could start clean, right? Like, they could really now choose with Von Bell gone. They can pick where they want to slot him and build the team that way, essentially, or build the secondary that way. If they want him at strong, they get a guy that's better. And I know it's positionless, but get a guy that fits, like Andrew was saying, that body type. Or if they view Dax as a true free safety, plan accordingly. And they've been really wishy-washy about that. And, part of it was, does Bell come back? And now we know he doesn't. So which direction do they go? Probably eliminates, half those free agents, right? There's names out there, but what's the budget too? Like, if it's $3 million, they're probably gonna have to wait for a bargain deal for a little while here, unless they can get somebody that's lower down, less sought after. It's going to be a very weird market, and also probably what other decisions here are they going to make? What do you think it means when they don't sign somebody on day one, like a Hayden Hurst? Does that mean Hayden Hurst is waiting? Do you think that they're not pursuing him? It's hard to say, where some of these pieces are going to fall, and that will dictate kind of their budget here for what they have at safety.
Yeah, I think, if you want to toss out some names, and we've talked about this before, actually, Mike and I talked about this, and this is a guy I'm still high on that I think the Bengals can maybe try to pursue if, either side was interested. One, Thornhill from Kansas City. He's still pretty young. His market value is ideally what the Bengals would be targeting. You got Julian Love, who played with the New York Giants. Taylor Rapp, who won a Super Bowl with the Rams, played against the Bengals in that game, obviously. I want to go back to one of our subscribers, Shaquille, who suggested that a few weeks ago that the Bengals should pursue C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I was hesitant because I didn't know if the Eagles would tag him with the franchise tag. They didn't. He's a free agent. I still think it's possible, so I will say Shaquille maybe made a point. I was wrong, but he's a little more on the pricey side. I think he's anywhere from kind of that $10 to $11 million a year range. So do the Bengals want to go for him, pay him short term on a smaller deal? It's possible. I mean, the guy helped to lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl, and the Bengals want to win a Super Bowl now. So if they're that, high strung on him, why not? But it's just hard to say because kind of where do you go into the second wave as we enter day two? It's interesting, but again, I think Thornhill, Love, Rapp, those are guys that they should definitely keep in mind. But to kind of go back to Jermaine Pratt, which I think we all agree was the most shocking deal of the day,
I don't know about that. I think I would throw the challenge
for the Bengals.
I think I would. No, I think I would throw the challenge flag on that. I think not re-signing.
Okay, go ahead.
Not re-signing Von Bell is more surprising to me. Just
really,
Lou Anarumo talked about Akeem Davis-Gaither in a pretty positive light at the combine. You kind of looked at the safety position as a position where it's like, okay, you've got Dax Hill, and then what? Like it's at best a mixed bag. So Lou seemed to really like Akeem. He talked about kind of I guess I should say if you read between the lines, I thought it kind of seemed like Lou was saying he was kind of primed for a bigger role. It just felt like a natural transition. Now, I mean, you add to a position where you didn't really need a ton of help. You still have Logan Wilson. I think we had debated on this podcast what's the difference between Jermaine Pratt and Akeem Davis-Gaither. So to me, I think the Von Bell thing was more surprising, just because kind of what he signed for. One, but you only know that after the fact. But two, that you would kind of let that happen, knowing that okay, this team now has some pretty big questions at safety.
Well, it could be also foreshadowing, it's hard to imagine them paying both Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. Like, now is Jermaine
right
their linebacker?
That's what I was going to ask you guys.
And then Akeem slots in next to him. Jermaine moves over to the sort of the Mike I mean, they're a little more interchangeable. But is that what that means? Like, or does it mean maybe they talked to Logan and was like, we've got this X amount of money. Maybe we could bring both of you back for the next foreseeable future. You guys play well against each other, off each other. It's more than they've paid a linebacker in a while. It's not a position they've invested in. I thought it was still a modest deal. It wasn't like something that, necessarily broke the bank. And so, it's not a shock when he came down, in terms of his market value on a couple of the sites was around $10 million. I think with the glut of linebackers and sort of the lack of priority a lot of teams place on it, maybe he could have squeezed out a little more, but I think he liked the situation he was in, and the Bengals got a decent deal. I'm still just not sure how, like you said, Andrew, all these pieces fit, because on its face, they had a better succession plan at linebacker, at least for 2023, without Pratt. At safety, not so much. But, I mean, we'll see how it looks like here, as the week unfolds. It's not a bad deal, and Pratt, if he plays on the level he did in 2022, it's going to look like a great signing and especially a great value because he played better than a $6 million player this year.
I saw that Jeff Hobson from Bengals.com, who we've had on this podcast, he talked to Jermaine Pratt kind of about, if Lou Anarumo being back played a role, and, Jermaine basically said in the article it absolutely did, because I think that's the other thing is, we kind of talked about why it's a big deal that Lou Anarumo's back. I think that's one of many examples why. So you could also say that with him being there, maybe Jermaine looked at it as hey, you know what? I'm going to get paid a decent bit. Maybe he didn't think he was going to get that money or a similar fit anywhere else on the market. And, Lou's spoken highly of him, even in the midst of all the tweets and stuff. So I think he felt comfortable with it. This is just my theory based on what he told Jeff, but who knows? We'll have to kind of learn more about that later. But when we come back, we're going to look ahead about the other positions we haven't talked about that the Bengals will be looking at in free agency and what that could look like in the next 2 days to wrap up the week, as we have that right here on the Strictly Stripes podcast. Hey there, it's Muhammad Ahmad from the Strictly Stripes podcast. You might be wondering, what exactly is Cincinnati Football Insider? Well, it's a community of fans who want the inside scoop on the Bengals and a direct connection to the Strictly Stripes podcast and the reporters who cover the team, and that would be me, Andrew Gillis, and Mike Neislick. It works like this. Andrew, Mike, and I will text your phone a few times a day with breaking news, analysis, and our insights on the Bengals. It's the inside scoop on what we're hearing, and we'll give you the inside word before it even hits social media. Being an insider is the best way to participate with the podcast and get in on special events and Zoom calls with me, Mike, and Andrew. And the best part is you can text us directly. It's a great way to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls for just $4.99 a month. Still not sure? Well, just try it for 2 weeks, and if you don't like it, you can text the word STOP at any time, but you won't want to cancel once you join the community of hardcore Bengals fans. Here's the best way to get on board. Go to cleveland.com/Bengals, click on the blue banner at the top of the page, or if it's easier, text 513-940-4193. It's a great time to try the 2 weeks free, as we'll be reporting live from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Plus, we'll be covering free agency on the way to the NFL Draft in April. Give us a try for 2 weeks and see what you think. Just text this number again. It's 513-940-4193 and become an insider today. All right, and thanks for staying with us on the Strictly Stripes podcast. So we talked about the big day one of free agency for the Bengals, what that means, what that looks like. But to kind of move forward, one name that Michael mentioned, who I think is going to be the biggest free agent to watch on the offensive side of the ball, Hayden Hurst, who's the only starter from last year not on contract for 2023. I think, we don't know where that situation is or what that looks like, but I'm kind of thinking about this. So Josh Oliver, who's one of the free agent tight ends on the market, Monday he signed a $21 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings. I haven't really looked at his stats, but I'd imagine they can't be much different from Hayden Hurst. So if we're just inferring based on that deal, which I think was one of the bigger tight end deals of the day, if not the biggest, if that's what the market is looking like, and that kind of dictates how much money Hayden Hurst could get, if he is more focused on the money versus being in a home like he found in Cincinnati, at that point, do you think the Bengals could just kiss him goodbye? Or is it maybe not fair to compare that to someone else's deal? Does it just kind of have to play itself out?
Yeah, I don't think that's...
Josh Oliver, first of all, Josh Oliver is a completely different tight end He's a blocking tight end. So his stats nowhere near Hayden Hurst in terms of production. What did he have last year?
Right, for sure.
Catches. So they are not the same type of tight ends. He's in a different class. So I'm not sure if they're comparable. The Vikings are looking for something specific. There are some pass catching tight ends available, but you can go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
I was going to say I'm not even sure. I don't think it's a blocking tight end thing. I think you kind of look at the situations. Minnesota traded T.J. Hawkinson, or Minnesota traded for T.J. Hawkinson. Josh Oliver's coming in, and I mean, who else is on that team, right? It's Justin Jefferson. They just cut Adam Thielen. You need somebody. They're gonna
probably extend Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, so you're gonna have Justin Jefferson. To me, that kind of reeks of them just kind of saying, all right, we're gonna commit to the bit. We're gonna run 2 tight end sets and see how it goes. But which is fine. Oliver, with him, it's always kind of been, you bet on who he is as an athlete. I mean, he's 6'5", 250 pounds, and you just kind of hope you can work something out of that. With Hayden Hurst, it's a little bit different. Hayden's 30. He just had a deal that was like $3.5 million against the cap. But I think it was pretty clear to see, and I mean, I'm not breaking news here or anything like that. But I think this tight end class is going to go really, really slow in terms of free agency because, we've heard everybody talk about this. GMs have talked about this. Coaches have talked about this. Daniel Jeremiah talked about this on that draft call that we talked about here. This tight end class for the rookies, is loaded. And, there's a lot of guys that you can get in the first 3 rounds of the draft. And I think teams are kind of weighing the cost-benefit analysis of saying, okay, well, what if instead of paying a tight end now, we're going to take care of our positions, elsewhere. We're going to do the Jermaine Pratt thing. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then we'll come back to tight end and see where we're at. So, you kind of look at situations. You've got some decent tight ends, some intriguing tight ends on the market. Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, Robert Tonyan, Hayden Hurst. You've got guys on the market that have done pretty good things in their career.
Foster Moreau.
For sure. You're talking about guys that are, not 30 yet. And, you sign a 3 or 4 year deal. You're not exactly going to push into the end of their career. So to me, I think that with the guys that are going to come out this year in the draft, there's not going to be a rush for tight end. I would be kind of surprised if you just see a swarm of tight ends here at tomorrow or being Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. So I think teams are just going to kind of wait and see where you're at. And, if a tight end gets priced out of your range, well, if Hayden Hurst says, I want to go somewhere and I want to start, so be it, then you just kind of wait and see and say, all right, we'll address this need in the draft.
Well, you don't think he would start for the Bengals?
Absolutely.
Well, that's the thing. It's what if Hayden Hurst says, coming up on.
He's worried that they're going to draft. They won't guarantee.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. So I think Hayden Hurst's story is kind of fascinating when you look at his NFL career. Without going into every nook and cranny of it, shows up in Baltimore. They draft Mark Andrews the same year. He's the 3rd tight end on that team. They trade him to Atlanta. Then they draft Kyle Pitts. Hayden Hurst has some reason to worry. He's got some experience under his belt, which kind of make him, rightfully gun shy about committing to a team. So I think it's not only the right situation for the Bengals because, again, if you're sitting there and Hayden Hurst says, I want, this is my last chance to cash in. I need Josh Oliver's deal. I need $7 million a year. And the Bengals are sitting there going, man, what if we could take Sam Laporta in the 3rd round. We could take the kid from ODU whose name I'm forgetting, the big athlete kid, whatever his name is. We could just take him in the 3rd or 4th round. You're talking about millions and millions of dollars of difference here, which is, again, that might be a starting safety if you're the Bengals. So, that might be a guy who is starting for you on the back end. And when you look at kind of who has the discrepancy of talent on this roster, I think you probably want to fill out the defense more than you want to fill out the offense.
Well, that to me, I don't know. If they don't, you let Bell, and Bates was obviously too much. You let Bell go, say you don't re-sign Hurst. That's really kind of your last, prize free agent that you're trying to retain. Where are you improving in free agent? Where are you making your mark? You're really going to roll with this roster and then just draft a couple rookies? We'll see, like it just feels like if they just go for bargains and try to improve in the draft, which you're probably maybe a first round pick, one or two picks will play or like make a significant impact on this team with all these veterans. That seems to me not the type of offseason I think fans were hoping for, but also not exactly a very aggressive offseason for a team that's like one or two pieces away from a Super Bowl. I mean, we will see. Maybe tomorrow they make a splash, sign a right tackle or whatever. But obviously they haven't released Mixon. They haven't released La'el Collins. Like, you're just kind of looking for somewhere like, they kept Pratt. It's a nice move, but it's not making them better necessarily than they were last year. They didn't get better.
And I think, I think it's important, like you said, I think you're right. Where can you get better? I think it's important to kind of say that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And when you look at all of the situation, we're talking about safety, but I'm not saying I would do this. I would need to certainly look into this, but tell me, I don't think this is insane to say, hey, you know what? We're going to sign a bargain bin veteran. We're going to have Dax Hill compete. He's probably going to be the starter, but we're going to have that guy compete with Mike Thomas. And then we're going to sign Frank Clark. And we're just going to boost.
But I'm saying that's fine.
The Bengals?
Right. Well, right, so that's my point. Yeah, I don't know if it has to be a 1-for-1 replacement. What if you
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree with that. That's my point. But if that move doesn't come, and it's we'll just get a player in the draft to try to improve. Ultimately, that will be I think it. My point today is that they did not get better today, right? They took a step back.
But so, I think
they just stayed the same, is what you're saying.
No, they took a step backwards
because you lose Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Yeah,
can they make up for that in the next 2 days? Do you think they can make up for that?
They could, but it's not just signing a veteran replacement at safety. They need to do something to shore up, attack a weakness that they had, like a right tackle, running back or whatever.
Which they did not attack today.
Well, that was kind of my point. Yeah, that was kind of my point. Yeah, I think Mike and I are on the same page. We're just saying it different ways. It doesn't have to be. You can get better by not addressing a weakness. You can get better by adding a pass rusher and just saying, "Look, we're going to get after the quarterback and we're going to take pressure. We're going to take pressure off the secondary." Or you look. There were rumors about all kinds of running backs that they were interested in. Maybe you sign Jamal Williams and you sign Kareem Hunt or you sign somebody like that, and you're like, all right, we're gonna, maybe take some pressure off the passing game, and we're gonna try and run the ball a little bit more. So maybe we don't need a Hayden Hurst who's over the cap valuation is $6.5 million. Maybe we can just get a guy who's gonna cost us $2 million, who's a blocking tight end, and can kind of come in and play, a very specific type of role. And then we bring back Mitch Wilcox. There's more than one way to do this. It doesn't have to be, and Mike's right. I think you need to do something, but it doesn't have to be a safety. It can be.
It needs to. You need to do something just replacing. You can do something Bell.
At safety, but the big splash doesn't have to be. We're signing a safety.
But I don't think that's where they will make a splash. That's what I'm thinking, and I think we're on the same page. They need to do something, and they probably you'd hope
to stand out
or to get better. I mean, they to have
stand out by getting better. Yeah,
not stand out, just to get closer to the goal of a Super Bowl when you have a roster that's so close. Taking a step backwards on day one is fine, but it means that you have to, in the next couple of days,
make up for lost ground.
I get not being aggressive, and I get avoiding some of the higher priced ticket items, but you're also losing out. I mean, the right tackle market seems to be escalating. I'm curious how that affects them if they were going to try and that they might be priced out of that. We'll kind of see. I think a pass rusher would make a lot of sense. I think a running back would make a lot of sense. It just seems to me as of right now, they're it's just based on day one. We're rolling into next year with what we had, and that's probably not what fans want to see.
It's funny you guys mentioned all that. I was just going to ask you guys so how would you grade day one of free agency for the Bengals? I think you guys pretty much answered it there.
I don't know. Mike, I still grade it as an incomplete. Is an incomplete. Because you lose Jesse Bates and Von Bell, but what happens tomorrow if you sign Miles, you sign Miles Sanders in free agency and then you sign Frank Clark? Yeah, you sign. There are ways you can do this, and like it doesn't. Like I mentioned with the tight end market, I don't think it's going to necessarily come, hot and heavy as quickly as the other ones, like other position groups. I mean, so I don't know. I think that right now it's kind of too early to say because, like, frankly, like if you were to grade day one, you're probably at like D, and I don't think that that's necessarily fair to Mike Thomas or Jermaine Pratt. It's just when you lose two starting safeties, especially one of Bates, and Bates was great and Bell was really good. I think when you lose two guys of that caliber, it's really hard to say, oh well, C, B, whatever. No, it's like it's a bad grade, but it's hard to give it a complete grade without kind of knowing what they do over the next couple of days.
And it's fine for day one. Like I think it was expected that there'd be some losses. And Bates, I mean, there was no way they were going to make him the fourth highest paid safety in NFL history or whatever he got. I mean, that was just not feasible. So, like, that was out of their hands. They weren't going to do that. The Bell thing, I mean, they probably had enough to re-sign him if they wanted to. Will he make them look bad? I don't know. I mean, he's obviously going to be 30, 31 by the time that the deal gets done. But like you said, today they didn't get better. And that's the only thing you could say definitively. Grade wise, I don't know what that means. C maybe because they didn't overspend on anybody, but they didn't get better. So like, it's not great, but all I know is they didn't get better today. And you want to get better in free agency, or what's the point of having cap space or money to spend?
Yeah, I mean they got the sixth highest cap space in the league, so I mean you're not going to be big spenders, but you can always get some good items off the grocery aisle. So yeah, I'm with you guys there. I think C is although, like Andrew said, it's an incomplete grade. If we're just basing it exclusively on today, I'd say a C-ish is good. But to kind of wrap up with something funny with all of this crazy just news and wackiness of free agency, have some fun wackiness here. I'm sure you guys saw this, and for those who don't know, BJ Hill, 2 days ago, we're taping this on a Monday, I think it was Saturday, he tweeted, if Jermaine Pratt gets re-signed, I'll go bald. Of course, that makes sense because they played college football together at NC State, and they're both from North Carolina, so they've been pretty good friends for a while. Well, what happened. So a deal's a deal, and basically BJ Hill said, this account does not exist. I will see you all later, some kind of sarcastic response. But I want to ask you guys this. Like, what kind of a bet would it take? And I don't know if maybe this applies to you, Mike. No offense, because I guess you're kind of already there. I'm sure people don't know what you look like. You have a little bit of hair left. But anyhow, I guess it does apply to you somewhat. What kind of a bet would it take for you guys for you to, like, agree to shave your hair if, like, you lose the bet?
Taking strays.
To go bald, essentially.
Taking strays, huh?
Like, what kind of a bet would someone have to wager for you to do that? You got like a big smile on your face. I know you have something you want to say.
Mike just caught the heaviest uppercut stray I think I've ever heard of.
Oh,
wow,
that was unkind.
Wow, that was like.
Hey,
that was
I
like
say
that,
it somewhat applies.
That was
to
like
you.
that scene where like you see like a boxing match and like the ref is coming in to stop, like to separate the two guys, and the ref all of a sudden just gets clocked in the chin. Wow.
Back to the question, though. What would it take for you guys to be willing to wager a bet where you'd have to shave your hair if you lose?
Mike?
I mean, I don't know. I bet cash, so I don't bet.
Yeah, money.
What if you didn't have the option to bet cash? You can only bet shaving your hair off. Like, that's the only condition you can have.
You don't take the bet.
Under any circumstance.
You don't take the bet.
I probably wouldn't take that bet.
See, you wouldn't even take it
at
all.
Well,
like,
first
off,
off, like I can be bought. I'll
like literally bought.
Yes, pay. I don't know, but pay a bunch of money.
What's
and
your market
I'll
value?
do it.
As messed up as it is to ask.
Pay me a bunch of money, and I'll do what you want.
And then you'll go buy your island and
right,
be
exactly.
Oil baron.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do when I'm an oil baron. No, I'm not. I don't think I'm ever betting that.
Wait, but then you have no freedom because someone bought you.
Well,
Although,
it depends.
I don't know if that's legal. That'd be human trafficking. But yeah.
Like if somebody says like, "Hey, Andrew, we'll give you this amount of money to shave your head," I'm doing it. It just I need that money to be right, and it needs to be more than $1,000 because I would look like an idiot for like a month 2 months, probably more like 2 months, and I look like an idiot as it is.
Why would you look like an idiot? It could be a good look on you.
No, because I look like an idiot now, and I don't think bald. See, some people can rock bald, and I am not one of those people. So,
I gotta have some better self-esteem. And
Nope.
I mean, I'm already kind of going bald. Like, if you look at the back of my head, it's just kind of building its way up, and I'll be Mike. I mean, I'll be bald before you know it. So, like, I'm getting there. But if I had to wager a bet with someone where I'd be willing to do such a thing if I lost, I would say if, like, someone asked me, do you think the Bengals will win the Super Bowl next year? And, like, they didn't. Like, I said yes, and they didn't, and I have to shave my hair off. I'd be willing to wager that kind of a bet. Actually, do you want to wager that now? No, I'm just kidding. You're crazy.
Yeah, well,
you guys are about to do. I know
you're making it seem like Mike is Paul Daner. Like,
whoa!
Like, no, Paul tweeted about this, so it's fair game. He tweeted like bald is the new. He said bald is the new hair. Like, wow,
that's fair.
Mike,
he did say
wow,
that. Yeah,
Mike caught too many strays. Yeah, Paul Daner tweeted, "Never be afraid to go bald." # bald is the new hair. No, Mike.
Yeah,
Mike
Andrew, never be a goat to be afraid. Don't be
strays
afraid to go
Mike
bald.
caught too many strays here.
All right, no more strays for the night. I'm gonna have to be. I'm gonna have to be kind here. I've been too harsh. I'm sorry, Mike. You forgive me?
That's all right.
My sincerest apologies. I respect my elders, so forgive me, Mike. But no, I mean, if I think that's an interesting bet. Like, if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, you keep your hair. If not, you shave it off. I think that'd actually be an easy one. I think it's one that's worth wagering. I don't know if I would do it, but if I had to, I don't think it'd be a bad one. Who knows? Maybe we'll save that for the preseason. We'll put that in the back pocket for the next couple months. But stay with us, because later this week we're going to break down the rest of the waves of free agency, depending on what unfolds for the rest of the week for the Bengals and across the league. But once again, for myself, Mike, and Andrew, I'm Muhammad Ahmad. Glad to be back with you all. We'll see you on Tuesday.